Today, we are going to have a Raspberry Pi Pico play Game Boy games. This is crazy. This is just me putting it together and showing it off a little bit at the end. But I will have like a full review video on the main channel that I'll have linked down below and at the end to like actually go over whether or not this is worth it or not, because it's interesting for sure. This will only be able to play, as of right now, original Game Boy games, not Game Boy Color, but we will be emulating them on a Raspberry Pi Pico. I got a 2-pack of these for $10 on Amazon. This will not be the prettiest, by the way, but I will link the original video that I'm following down below. I am going to do it quite a bit differently from him because he used like I don't know what to call it, like a breadboard style thing and like clicky switches, and he made his own like 3D printed Game Boy shell. It's kind of cool, but I wanted to use an actual shell. So that's what we're doing today. We are going to start with the screen and the Pico. I thought that we'd be able to just like plop this in like this, solder it, easy peasy, but no, that is not how this is going to work. Unfortunately, I am going to snip off like all of these posts here because we need to save some space. And since this isn't going to be working as we'd hoped, or as I had hoped, it's going to be easier to just solder wires. Boom, boom, boom. All of these I'm going to make fairly long too. And I am going to try and match them to his diagram here. And like I said, I will be doing these slightly differently from the original creator. For me, the way I want to mount this in the shell is the SD card has to be up. I believe I don't have a choice in that. So a lot of this video is going to be me cutting wires and stripping the ends, just so we're clear. I'm going to start with just putting flux down on all of those and then adding a bit of solder to each of the points. And we're going to be soldering VCC directly to the 5th one down, which I believe is 3.3. And there's our first of many wires soldered. Okay, next we can do ground. So ground over here, the GND. He has it to this one over here. I don't think it matters, but we will do it to the same way he has it, which should be the 3rd one from the top on the opposite side. So it'll be this one here, and then maybe I should have had this a little bit longer, but that's all right. Ground is soldered, and we're not going to use the second ground. We're going to go all the way down. Okay, so on this one, it says NC twice. On his diagram, it's got NC 3 times. So I'm going to assume, I'm just going to follow along with exactly what the diagram says, okay? He's got a yellow wire there, so we'll find the yellow, and we'll put it on LED because that's where this lines up on his diagram. That's going to be the 7th one down from the red pin, which is GP22. If you look at the back side of the board, it says GP22. And we'll solder that one there. Next, we'll do green. To speed this process up a little bit more, I'm going to get the next few colors ready. So next up is green for the clock, the CLK. And then that will go to the 4th one from the bottom on this right side. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Put some solder down there. And then we can solder that right there. Next one is blue. And that's going to be going right above the spot for green on the Pi board. And then purple will go here. Come on. That will go directly above the blue. I don't have a gray wire, so I'm going to do brown next. And shocker, that will go right above the purple. And then I don't have a white cable, so I'm just doing another purple because I have a lot of purple left. And that one will go to the 2nd from the bottom down here. So we'll add a little solder. And that is it for the screen, just for the screen. Next, we're going to be soldering all. So over here, I've got 5 points. On the diagram, it's only at 4. We got CS, the Mossy. So there's no F. I've got one at the bottom that says F, and it does not say F. This one doesn't have an F on it. So I'm just going to leave that one off, and I'm just going to add solder to all the points we need to solder to. And I forgot to leave a space. So again, I will get some more wiring going here. And I'm going to make these a little bit longer because I don't know where I'm putting this. So I'm going to make them, I probably should make them a little bit longer. For this, since the diagram is once again slightly off, I'm going to pay more attention to the words on the diagram. So for our white wire that I'm choosing to be purple. That's going from CS, this guy right here. And then our blue wire will go from SD MDSI, which is going to be this one, to the very bottom wire or very bottom part here. Then our green wire is going to SD SCK. So that's going to be our bottom one instead. It's going to be different from the diagram, and that'll go to the second from the bottom on the pie. And then our orange one will actually go to the middle one, and the orange wire will connect to the fifth from the bottom on the left side of the pie. Now we can do all the wiring for the button controls. So this is where I'm really differing from him on this whole thing. I'm using one of Natalie the Nerd's boards, and I should have gotten this in gold, but it's not, so my button presses won't be as good. But this board fits the DMG perfectly. It's even got an X and Y button if you wanted to use this for an emulator. I'll link these down below. You have to get them from PCBWay or one of the other PCB services. And you should definitely get it with gold contacts, not whatever silver crap this is. I bought these years ago. So anyways, we need to cut up 8 wires plus a ground wire. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up 9 wires here. So from here, I'm going to start with ground actually, because there are multiple ground points on this board. So I'm going to start with adding to this ground over here. Oh, I got to turn on the soldering iron. This ground down here and solder our black ground wire to it. And that's just going to make things a little bit easier, at least in my eyes. And we are going to be soldering it to this ground here. And while we're here, I'm just going to go ahead and add some solder to each of these points. There is our ground. Then we're going to start with our brown wire, which is going to be going directly under this ground wire here. And based off the chart, it looks like it will be for our up button. So we'll start there. Next in line is yellow. So right next to brown, we will add a yellow wire. And that looks like it will be our down. Then we've got purple. So I will add solder down below. And purple looks like it's going to be our left button. And then I don't have a gray wire once again, so I'll use red since we don't need, even though the diagram shows a positive line on this board, there's no positive line on my board. We don't need it. So I will use red for gray this time, and that's going to be underneath that purple one. And our gray/red wire looks like it's going to be for right. Then we're going to skip over that next pad because that's ground. And then we're going to solder our white wire, which like last time, I made it purple since I don't have a white wire. And our white/second purple wire looks like it will be for A. Next up, we've got blue, which will be directly underneath that. And I'm just going to add the solder for the next couple of lines. We can solder our blue down to the Pico board. And blue is going to be for B. And then we can solder our orange wire down. And orange looks like it'll be for select. And then green, it's getting really messy here, but green will go right here. And green will be our start. That's all the wiring for the buttons section here. You'd think we'd be almost done. We're not. Next up, we've got our speakers. Thankfully, this should be a lot easier. We are actually close to finishing though. I'm going to use an original Game Boy speaker. Oh, this is a 4 to 8 ohm amp. This may blow the speaker, honestly, because I believe this is only 1 ohm. Oh, no, it's 8 ohms. Interesting. I didn't know. Okay, never mind then. This is totally within spec. I'm going to restrip the wires here for my speaker. I don't think the positive or negative matters because it doesn't matter on the actual Game Boy. So I'm just going to stick these wires in down here and then we'll solder them down. And then why do we need so many wires for just the speaker? I do not know. I'm going to try and maneuver this rat's nest a little bit so we can hopefully get through this a little easier. I will make these wires pretty long. I'm going to solder this ground pad, this one over here, and that'll go to the second from the right. Then our red power line will go from the farthest point. And this will be kind of tough because we already have a wire here, but we're going to flip the pie board over and we're going to attach it to this back side of that red wire from earlier. where it says 3v3. So I'm just going to add a little bit more solder. And hopefully the other end, the other wire won't disconnect from that pad. And it did. So we're going to flip it back over, get this rat's nest cleaned up, cleared up, then quickly solder it back. And now both of those are connected to the same point. Cool. From here, I'm going to add our blue, green, and white wires to this board. So that'll be the 3 closest to the left. And for this case, my white wire will be brown, then our green wire, then our blue wire. Then we'll have our white wire connect to the point 2 points below our red wires. And then 2 below it will be our green wire. And then right below it will be our blue wire. And you'd think maybe we're done now. No, we're not. If you have a power switch that will work well in a Game Boy, then you can use that. I'm going to use one of these switches. I can't remember what this kind of switch is called, but we'll use that for power. And then I'm going to use this 4056 board. You want to be careful with these because these get really hot. So don't put this on or near your battery. Don't put it near anything, really. And since I don't have an extra battery on hand, that actually makes sense for this. I'm going to be using this Game Boy Advance SP battery that I've soldered wires to a long time ago. Don't do this. This is stupid and bad. But I'm going to have the charge port come out of the link port. So I don't really need this to be that long between here and the Pi. So I'm going to use black. And because I have a really large amount of orange, I'm going to use that for my red wire for my 5-volt here. So this diagram, we're going to have a lot of wires going to the same places, or 2 wires going a lot of places. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way for now. So I'm going to add solder to all 4 of these pads. I'm going to solder one of my positive wires to the out, one of my negative wires to the out. Then I'm going to wrap these wires up and solder them together. I'm going to do the same thing to the negative wire. I'm going to add some solder to each of these pins. It doesn't matter which side, but I'm going to solder the twisted wires, one of these pins each. Then I'm going to solder the last orange wire to the second from the top and the last black wire to the third from the top. And then we will solder the battery to the B plus and B minus at the very end. And I just realized that my camera cut out for that last little bit there. So good luck. Okay. From here, we've done the majority of the soldering. So we can get to putting this all back together. Let's start with the screen, since that's the, well, let's start with moving this hunk of mess over to the side. And I'm going to clean this area up. Now we can take our mess and start putting it together. I'm going to start with putting the speaker in and putting our buttons and membranes in. Then I'm going to screw our button board into place, which should lock down the buttons and the speaker enough, at least. This will pretty much be the only thing that we screw down other than the 2 halves screwing together. Man, this is a jumbled mess. Can put our screen down, and I'm just gonna hold it down with my finger for a second. I don't even know how to do this, because like I still need to be able to add an SD card into this. So it's like finding a spot to center it. I wonder if I could, ooh, that's actually a genius idea. Okay, I'm gonna use one of these screws to screw this screen into this screw post, and the USB-C charger is now in the way. This should be just fine. It's gonna be off center, I know, but the cutout is way too big for the screen anyways, so I don't really care that it's not centered. Can we easily slot this in and out? Not really. I mean, honestly, I should be able to swap that out. I don't think I'm gonna swap that out super easily, but we just won't secure this down quite yet. Okay. One of the things I want to get settled right now is I want to cover quite a few things in Kapton tape. That way we can secure him nice and tidy out of the way. Okay. From here, I want to also cover the back of this in Kapton tape. Then somehow, some way, I'm going to need to get this thing secured. I think the easiest way for me to do that is just to slap it down. I wanted to make it so I could get this to stick out one of the holes in the shell, but I just don't think it's gonna happen. Okay, I think for now, I'm just going to get this all stuck down with a big strip of Kapton tape. And then from here, I'm actually going to hot glue both the power button and the USB-C port into place on the back half, where I will also, once again, have a big strip of Kapton tape on this metal sheet here, just in case, especially since this is the battery and power in there. Dropping the glue in. I'm also going to put some glue on top of these wires so they don't get broken off when I mess with this in the future. And then I'm also going to leave the USB-C up like this so I can solder those wires down in a second. Oh, baby, we're in business now. Okay, I think that is good enough for now. I do want to do a little bit more super gluing after I do the soldering. So I'm going to stick my battery into the battery compartment. I'm going to stick my wires through the battery compartment's spring hole, and then we can solder down our wires. I believe green was positive and yellow was negative. So we can have those soldered down. Boom. And then I'm going to cover those up some super glue or hot glue to give it that bit more of stability that we want. And then I'm going to clean up all the stringiness here. And it should be as simple as putting it back together, but we still have a couple things to do here. We still need to actually do the software part of this. So I'm going to get a micro SD card and I'm going to get a micro USB cable so we can plug it into the MacBook and then we can load up our firmware. I'm not going to show this on screen because I think it's pretty simple enough. You download the .uf2 file from the link in the description. It's a GitHub link, and then you can grab it from your downloads and just drag and drop it into the Pico's little file. And as soon as it's loaded on there, it will eject itself and you can unplug it. And everything we need should be on there now. Now we just need to put some ROMs onto this thing. The SD card should be formatted as FAT32, and you just drag your .gb files directly onto the root of the SD card. Simple enough. And then I'm just going to slot that into here. Don't need anything fancy. And we should, keyword should, be able to just drop this down in there. Oh, it's on. I'm going to put a little more Kapton tape down over the Pico now that we've got it all plugged in. A few problems here. I think our audio is kind of in the way. So I'm going to see if I can just push this down into here. That should help. Still making sure that all of our wires are out of the way of any screw posts. They are right now. Hopefully that will let us close. No, where are we stuck on? Oh, now we're stuck on this. Okay, that's easy. Gonna just flush cut this out of the way. I'm just gonna flush cut a couple of these posts out of the way too. Like this guy that doesn't have anything to do with the screw posts. I'm just gonna make this a little bit shorter. I'll leave that one alone. I think that one's fine. So now we should be able to close up shop here. Nice. Okay, I'm going to attempt to screw this down. Just double checking that no screws or no wires are in the way of any screw posts. And we can hopefully, before we put the actual screen lens on, I just want to make sure everything works here. So our power button is over here, not janky at all. Pressing that, didn't turn it on. Try that again. Maybe it takes a second to warm up. Okay, I'll try loosening a few screws. Might have too much pressure on the wires. Might be causing some shorts. Okay, that took way too long to get it to actually turn on, but it looks like I just need to jump start it with the charging cable. I don't know. I don't know why. But now it's clearly working. And of course, it's going to have all of the macOS dot files on there, but we can do a little quick little easy Dreamland start. There we go. And that's super loud. How do I turn that down? Okay, select and down turns it down. That sucker gets loud. Okay, cool. Select and right. Oh, change the color palettes with select and right. I just want like regular. That okay, green's fine. Wow, that's really small. Okay. Oh, select an A is mute. Select an B doesn't do anything that I know of. Okay. Now, the button presses not being accurate is due to the button board that I'm using is not gold. It's not ENIG. I think that's what it is. ENIG, the gold plated one. So the button presses aren't the best, but that's nothing to do with the mod, and that's everything to do with me not ordering the boards correctly. But I should be able to peel that. And I'm going to try bring that a little less crooked, but I think that's as good as we're going to get. And there we go. Kind of pointless to have a screen lens. I guess it's not pointless. But yeah, we've now got a Game Boy that is not actually a Game Boy. Interesting. This is it in all its beauty. It doesn't look terrible from the front, but the back, oh man, look at that rotten milk there. But hey, it works, man. I don't know. I dig it. A little bit of a pain in the butt to set up, but overall not so bad. I'll play with this a little bit over the weekend, review it. The full review is up on the main channel now if you want to check it out. See my in-depth thoughts, but initially not too bad. A lot of work to put it together though. Shout out to You Make Tech on YouTube, because this is where I saw it initially. He made a fork of Pico GB. Or I guess he calls it Pico GB. It's a fork of the DMG emulator from Delta Beard, which he calls Peanut GB. So shout out to both of them. And yeah, check out the full review, link down below. And yeah, I'm excited to try this out actually. This sucker's loud.